really based on three principles, helping you achieve that in a simple, smart, and sustainable way. Because it's about longevity. And health is never a let me see what I can do to achieve it, to obtain it. It's more of what I do each day that is getting me to the optimalness or to the fullness of my health, which means it's our entire life. And when we understand this concept to really grasp that health is not a checkbox, it's not simply something I do, but it's more of how I live. It's through my life. It's adapting the style of my life to become the foundational or to have the foundation as health. That is where things shift. And that is really my driving message, my driving narrative, and what I want to transmit to you to really grasp this understanding, because it's when I immerse myself in that style, when I make health as that foundational piece, when it becomes my identity, when it becomes how I view life, how I do life, how I think of life, how I embrace with life, how I connect with life, and how I have that relationship in life to be, everything about you transforms. But more importantly, your perspective and your cognitive understanding of the principle of health now becomes clear. It becomes evident. It becomes real for you. Because for years, the idea of health was simply something that it was made out to be something that you could just grab onto, and that's it. It was like, okay, I just got to do this. I grab onto it and that's it. But it's it's not enough. That's not the wholeness of it. It's not just simply about doing certain things and tasks to achieve them, and then that's it, and expect that through those things, now my life should completely shift into the direction that I want it to be or into how I want to live it. Doesn't quite work like that, because it's not about doing, it's about the becoming piece, it's about the identity piece, and it's about establishing that as the root foundation for your life. Today I want to talk about why we stay stuck in unhealthy eating habits, unhealthy or unwanted eating habits, because we each have a perception of what unwanted eating habits are. And it is encumbrance in an unhealthy state. However, maybe you do have healthy eating habits, but there are still things that you don't want to be doing. There's still things that maybe relationship wise you don't want to be in that relationship any longer. And when we get the clear understanding of what these unwanted eating habits are, we can then start shifting into, okay, now the idea is, why do I keep doing them? Right? Why is it that I'm still stuck in these unwanted eating habits? And why can't I change them? What do I have to do to be able to change them? And this understanding is about knowing that you've gotten into your unwanted eating habits not by um not in the sense that you were an unlucky person, or that um life didn't treat you well. Look, there were things that were presented to you that you learned to do. And so these unwanted eating habits, you learned them and you adopted them as yours. There's no right or wrong. There isn't necessarily a bad or a good. It's just simply what you learned. Now, as we understand these principles that we've learned how to do or how to have, or we've learned these unwanted eating habits, the good thing about this is that they are not rooted or embedded in you forever. We can change them, because if we learned how to do them, that means that we can learn another eating habit that we would rather have or that we would rather do. These unwanted eating habits were embedded, they were taught, we learned how to do them, we've adopted them, but it doesn't mean it defines who you are. Now, and when I say defines who you are, I'm talking about like future sense, right? For your entire life. Now, here's what happens is when we are doing these unwanted eating habits, or we are doing eating habits, or we're stuck in eating habits that might not be healthy, or that aren't leading us to a life that we want, or leading us to a road to success, because we're doing these eating habits, those eating habits now start to take on, we now start to become the identity of the choices we are making. So if my habit with food is I'm always eating sugar, right? Or I'm always eating processed foods or frozen foods, or just foods that don't necessarily benefit me. What happens that as I am in this relationship with these eating habits, because now I've adopted them as mine, they've now become my psychological understanding of what food is or how food should be for me. I now also start to live out this type of identity, meaning that a person that is always thriving on sugar, a person that is always eating processed foods, a person that is always doing junk food or food that isn't necessarily nutritious, what happens? We start to now do the things that that person does, and it's more likely going to be you have no energy. So what do? You sit around, you aren't as active, you probably express it even in your physicalities, meaning you slouch over, you might walk and drag your feet, you don't have, you're not energized, you're not excited about life, you're not necessarily looking into the future. Maybe you sit around and just watch TV, play video games, right? We start to take on the identity of the choices of the foods that we're making. So that means that if we want to shift that, we understand that not only are these foods impacting my health, not only are they impacting me on a physical sense, but they're also making me a person that I am not happy with. They're making me a person that I don't like to be. I'm not pleased with it. I'm not satisfied with who I am or the life that I have, meaning in my relationships, in my career, in my interpersonal relationships, in the bedroom with my wife or with my husband. Whatever that is for you, it's a direct output of what you are intaking for food. It is a direct output of your habit that you are doing or have adopted for yourself. And why we can't stop it is because not that you don't want to, it's a stronger reason. It is the psychological sense and the neurological connections that have now been established, one, and secondly, what you now start to believe about yourself, which now makes it enrooted deeper into you, yourself, your being. So when we continue to do unwanted eating habits, as we take on this identity, now we start to believe something about yourself. You now start to then believe that you are just an unhealthy person, always tired, bad things always happen to me. I'm just not capable of success. The good things never come to me. I'm never going to amount to something. I'm just going to be in this state forever. I can't change the situation. It now starts to shift, meaning that now starts to become your, it starts to define who you are. And so remember, we talked about definition, defining you as a future sense. Now your future is simply linked to this specific person, to your current state, to your current belief. And this is all coming from your habits, your food habits. Because look, we've talked about this in the past. Your food, your relationship with food shapes who you are physically, but also, again, because it is something that is done every day and it is coming into you, which food is a driving force that dictates how we feel, how we're going to think, our mood, how we're going to respond, our activity ability, our performance ability. It impacts our ability to think, right? Because food literally controls our entire body. It is information. And here I want you to really understand this. What is food? This is the key component that if we do not understand what food is, we're going to miss and we're going to abuse and we're going to stay stuck in unwanted eating habits because food is information. It sends information to the body. So now think of this. If we're always sending, if the foods that we're going to are sugary foods, they spike, right? They bring this high in our body. Or we're always going to processed foods, which again have high contents of sugar and salt, right? There's high contents of fat, right? There's always these unwanted nutrients that are coming into our body when we abuse that. What information are we sending? Well, we're sending information that says, okay, when I take this food, I get on this high, but then I get this crash. So therefore, I have these spurts of feeling good, but then now I'm depressed, I'm down, I just want to sleep. This information is not good information to the body. Not only that, but the information that then is developed through food that we are consuming, meaning spike the insulin, meaning, okay, if you're always in a negative state and you're going to food to help you feel better, okay, spike up dopamine, feel better, but then after that goes up, you're supposed to feel sad, you're supposed to be down, you're supposed to feel negative because that's the information that we're sending to our body. Not only that, but the chemical development that is sending information to our body in the sense of how the body should respond, what it should do with the food that you're giving it, which is why it's so important to understand that what we put in is sending information to our body on how we should perform, on what the body should do with that, also being what you will be capable of doing. So if we don't understand what food is, what's the purpose of food? What is the reasonings we eat food? Why we should consume certain types of foods and stay away from other foods? It's not that we can't, but it's more of I'm choosing not to because I understand that I can eat all things, but not all foods benefit me based on who I want to be, right? When we understand what food is, then we can allow ourselves to decide, okay, if this is what food is for me, if this is what food was intended for, and I look at my current relationship with food and I'm doing things that are not in line with the purpose or what food should be, then now I can allow myself an opportunity to be able to decide, okay, do I want to continue to be in these unwanted eating habits or do I want to change my relationship with food? Because the source and the reason we stay stuck in these unwanted eating habits is because of the relationship that we've adopted with food. And based on that relationship that I've adopted with food, it's impacted my psychological understanding of what food is, and because of that psychology side or the psychological impact that it has for me and what now I see food as and what food does for me and what it means for me, then I'm going to start to take on the identity of the choices that I'm making, meaning it's going to start to change the belief about myself. Because if I've always ate certain foods and it's impacted my body to always gain weight, to be to be unhealthy, to not have energy, to not be performing well, to be always moody, to not love myself, then the belief of me is I'm unloved, I'm not good enough, nobody cares about me, I'll never be successful, the world isn't on my side. I can never amount to anything. I'll never be able to achieve this. Why? Because that's what I've now started to believe based on what that has started to do for me. And because of that belief, that's what I now start living. That is where I'm talking about how food impacts your identity. Now, when we start to understand, okay, I simply adopted this relationship. I learned that this was the relationship I should have with food. Okay, that was misinformation. It wasn't right because I don't want to have that relationship, meaning I no longer want to be this person that I am. So, what do we got to do now? Then we got to start shifting on, okay, let's start changing my relationship with food. What would I like my relationship with food to be? Based on who would I like to be? Who now do I want to be? What type of life do I now want to have? What is the type of person I would like to become? What is that new identity I want to have? Because then, based on that person, then we can start saying, okay, well, what type of relationship does this person have with food? And then based on that relationship that we now establish, we can now then start looking at, okay, I now can start changing my psychological understanding of food based on this new relationship that I'm deciding to have. And when we start staying in this new relationship, the more we do it, right? And here is the key. It's not simply about, okay, I'm going to try this out for 3 months and see what happens. I'm going to try this out for a year and see what happens. I'm going to try this out just to see what happens. It doesn't work because you've got to commit to saying, okay, this is the relationship I'm going to have with food. Then it's going to impact my psychological understanding of food. And in that relationship is how now I start to change who I am. But it's not just a temporary thing. It's not just something you try. It's not just something that I'm going to do this diet. That's why diets and new fad nutrition plans don't work. Because at first, I haven't made the conscious choice of deciding how I want my relationship to be and have that influence my psychological understanding of food in line with who I want to be. Just because somebody tells you do this and don't do that, eat this and don't eat that, it's not going to work long term. Why? Because it's not the relationship you have decided to have. It has not influenced your psychological to change your current psychological understanding of food, to change your current relationship with food, because it hasn't necessarily been your choice based on the clarity of who you want to be. When we don't get to that place, we're going to stay stuck in these eating habits because it's like, well, I'm eating this food and nothing's happening to me. Oh, I'm following this nutrition plan, but nothing's happening to me. Well, it's not happening because you have not chosen to have that relationship with food based on understanding that this is what I am. I am a healthy person. Therefore, because I am a healthy, I am a strong, I am a fit, I am a full of life, energetic, that people love, that people appreciate. This is the person that I am. These are the choices that this person makes. This is a relationship it has with food. Therefore, food is nutrients for me. It is what drives me. It is what helps me perform. It is what helps me feel happy, meaning I have energy, I am thriving. So therefore the choices that I'm making, it's no longer, oh my gosh, I can't eat this. No, it's I'm choosing not to eat this because I understand that when I consume this, it helps me be at my best. It makes me be who I want to be. It helps me stay in the life that I want to have. Now there's a completely different shift and there's a completely different perspective. And this is the piece that if we don't get to truly understanding, to absorbing, to grasping and to start implementing it, we're gonna oftentimes, and I don't necessarily want to quote a number, but I would probably say about 90% of the reason why people stay stuck, if not the main reason. And this is my my full belief that when we can grasp this, then things can start shifting for us tremendously. And now we won't want to go back to this other relationship. We'll no longer desire to have these foods that we were having. We no longer want these unwanted eating habits because I understand, no, it's not making me the person that I want. It's not helping me. It's not benefiting me. It doesn't influence, it doesn't add to the person that I want to be. So I don't want it. Now that choice of like, oh my gosh, I don't know why I keep going back to it. It no longer becomes an issue because it's now so clear for me that this is what I want to have. This is a relationship with food I want to have. This is a person I want to be. This is the person I've chosen to become. This is the life that I've decided to have for myself. I no longer, even if the craving comes, I can stop myself and say, yeah, no, I don't want that. But it does take practice, right? Because if we're looking at, okay, I've been doing these unwanted eating habits for 15, 20, 30 years, even if you did it for a shorter amount of time, even a year or two, it's still going to take practice, but it's about being intentional. It's about being aware of what's happening to then be able to stop ourselves and practice what it is we are establishing here. I'm losing track of time. What time is it? Okay. I want to answer some questions that have been sent. And if you could set those up for me, because I don't have those questions that were sent in through Messenger. If you can pull those up for me with your phone, that'd be great. And and again, to drive, to close this topic for today. Thank you. To close this topic for today, and then I'll go into some of the questions that were sent in to me. Your relationship with food is going to impact your psychological understanding of food, which is then going to take on your own identity, and it's going to impact your belief about self. So today, let's evaluate, well, what is my let's go backwards with this sequence. It's what is my current belief of myself today? What is that belief? What am I believing about myself? How do I see myself? What is that? Based on that belief, it's going to give us a psychological understanding of how I view myself, but also how I'm viewing food. And then based on that, meaning what is food to you? How do you see food as? What is the meaning behind it? What is the purpose behind it? What does it mean? Then based on that is, okay, we can evaluate and look at, well, what is my current relationship with food? Because if I think, it doesn't matter what I eat, nothing happens, nothing benefits me, fine. That's the relationship you have. Therefore, your understanding of food is, well, it really doesn't matter what I eat because nothing impacts me, nothing changes me. So therefore, my belief might be, yeah, that's why I'm still overweight. That's why I'm still unhealthy. That's why I don't like I'm not pleased. So it's always linked. And every choice that we make, it's like when I sit down and I prepare this meal, I know that this meal, what I'm consuming, is impacting myself in a positive way. It is fueling me. It is giving me nutrients. It is impacting me to be healthy, to live healthy, to thrive, to do what I want to do. It is giving me a clarity. Therefore, the way I'm viewing food is, yeah, I don't want these other foods because they won't do that for me. I'm going to make these choices because I know that this is what food is for me. It is for performance. It is to enhance the betterment of my life. It is to be the best husband I could be, the best future father I can be. It is giving me the ability to connect with others and to perform at a higher state. Therefore, what do I see myself as? I see myself as a strong, a healthy, a fit, a confident, a successful person. And these are the things we can start doing today so that we can now start linking, well, where is that missing piece? Where is that disconnect? Right? So that we can start making the adjustments in that area. And if you'd like to learn more about this, look, I'm definitely here for you. I'm here to support you with that. This is what I focus on, helping people get to this place so we can do those shifts and changes. So if you want more information, you can always send me a message there on Facebook. You can check out my website, www.davidhernandez.co. Shoot me a message there, or just send me a DM and we can chat if you have more questions about this. Cool. So now one of the questions that was sent in to me, let me find it here. For privacy reasons, I'm not going to be giving the name. Her question was, so I eat twice a day, one large breakfast and one large dinner. I'm still full by lunch, but for some reason, I still feel like I need to eat because I have eaten lunch in the past. I find myself eating when I'm not hungry at all. How do I change my mindset on that? This is such a powerful question. And I think that many can resonate with this question. And this was something that I I can deeply connect with because this is one of the bigger struggles that my best friend Eric had, which is what I believe led him to the tragedy of him being so overweight and ultimately to his death, right? So there's a couple of key points that I want to break down, and I'm going to break them down so that you can understand the verbiage of where this person is at and the information they are giving here. Okay. Because I want you to start taking on this approach for yourself to start looking at, because the way we speak, it gives us hints of where we're at, of what's happening, and even the reasons why we keep doing certain patterns, behavior patterns in our life. So, right now, what she is doing, the choice, okay? And remember, everything that we do, every behavior that we do, it's linked with the choice that we have made, whether it's conscious or subconscious. We're still choosing to do it. I eat twice a day, one large breakfast and one large dinner. That is her choice. That is what she wants to continue to do. Okay. I'm still full by lunch. So there's the indication that her body is speaking to her. Her body is literally saying, I'm satisfied. I'm full. And that would be 3-4 hours later. It's important to understand your body. We are so disconnected with our body that oftentimes we have no clue what it's trying to tell us. And every day, every moment, every instance, your body is speaking to you. It speaks through you through cues, it speaks to you through pains, it speaks to you through discomforts, it speaks to you through the way you feel. It is speaking to you. And the more attention or the more intention and the more awareness we can have, meaning relationship with our body, we're going to be able to understand a lot about ourselves. And what happens is when we stay stuck in unwanted eating habits or we're abusing food, we literally start to lose the hormones and the signals that are sent to the body to tell itself, "Hey, you're full. You don't need to eat." We lose that. Because if we're now just abusing, and we're not responding to the cues that our body is giving us, we're not listening to it, we're literally just going to lose it. And there's a hormone, I believe it's the leptin hormone, and I will go back and re-verify this information. And if it's wrong, I'll come back and address it next week. But the leptin hormone is the hormone that sends the signal to the brain that tells it, "Hey, I'm full, I'm satisfied, I don't need anything else. I don't need any more food." And like I said, if we ignore this cue, it's like the body says, okay, then if you're not going to listen to me, if you're not going to listen to what I'm telling you, then screw it. I'm not going to warn you anymore. And that's where the danger zone, we start falling into that danger zone, right? To where now the reasons for why we eat are no longer to give us nutrients or to nourish us. It's just simply now to fulfill some other desire, to deal with an emotion, to deal with sadness, to just feel better, to, or simply none of those, but just to be in this habit of just eating or putting things in our mouth, which is the case for many people. And that could be like the boredom. I don't like to do this behavior. I don't like to do these. I don't like to make this choice. I don't like doing it. It makes me feel ugly. It makes me feel bad, but I still do it. And that could really be the boredom piece, right? So her body is having that cue. Like the leptin hormone is telling you, no, 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 I'm still full. But here's the information that she's saying. But for some reason, I still feel. And that is the key word right here. I still feel. So this cute clue here is that she is making her choice based on a feeling, right? So with this, I can probably look back that at some point or another in her life, she was going to food to feel as a sensory sensation. Now, don't get me wrong. When we eat, we always feel there's something that happens to us physiologically, and that's the key. But if we viewed food as something that helps me feel better emotionally, that thin line can easily be crossed because we can feel hungry, right? So I eat and it satisfies the feeling of hunger, but it's a physiological feeling in our body, not an emotional feeling. And it's not a physiological response because her body's telling her, I'm full. So it's not a physiological feeling that she's having that she feels she needs to satisfy. It is an emotional feeling that she is having that is driving this sensation or this need or this desire to eat. I still feel like I need to eat. You see how now that becomes emotional, that becomes psychological? I still feel like I need to eat, but her body's telling her, you don't need it. I'm good. I'm satisfied. This is absolutely crucial to understand here because I believe this is going to bring a lot of awareness and breakthroughs for you. When you look at your choices, if you find yourself in this state, I feel I need to eat, but you're not feeling hungry. There is no physiological response that is telling you in your body you're actually hungry. If we truly, truly pay attention, if we truly, truly are in being intentional and have an awareness of what my body is trying to tell me, but I just feel like I need to eat. That's a psychological response. That's a psychological statement which stems from the relationship with food that you've had, or in this case with her, the relationship with food that she's had, meaning she would just eat to feel. Oh, this feels good. Therefore, now your psychological connection is going to be when I don't feel this satisfaction that food is giving me, then I need more of it. So therefore, if I'm not feeling it, I want more of it. So give it to me. And how do I know that? Based on what she's going to say here. These are all clues. I still feel like I need to it because I have eaten lunch in the past. You see that right there? even though she was eating lunch, which it's like, okay, it's time to eat, our bodies adapt to the relationship we've always had with food. And it goes far beyond what our body is feeling because it's now a psychological connection that we've developed, a neurological connection that we've developed. And you can test this for yourself. If you always eat at a specific time, okay? For example, let's say you wake up in the morning, even if you drink coffee or drink tea, like for me, I wake up in the morning and I usually drink tea and then followed by water and things like that. If you always do it methodically at a specific time, if you pay attention to this, you're going to realize that your body is going to ask for it. It's going to ask for it. You might be asleep still in bed and you're going to like have something that's going to switch off. You're going to feel something in your body like it's going to respond. But more oftentimes than not, it's going to be a psychological response that we get. And when that psychological response is so rooted within us, it's going to then produce a physiological response in most cases. So for her, she wasn't getting the physiological response, she was getting the psychological response, but then it was producing the choice to then have a physiological response. And it was because she always ate lunch before in the past. So the relationship with food that she had was I would eat at this time. I would eat during lunch. I eat at this time. Therefore, even though she's not hungry, because that neurological connection has already been developed to eat lunch at this specific time or within this range of time, her body, her mind is going to trigger it, which then is going to lead to an action. But this is where the aspect of the relationship she's had with food plays the influence of the choices today, of the habit that she has right now or that the body is asking for. It's that relationship piece. It's the psychological piece that she's developed and views food in this form, which is now, even though she doesn't want to do it, it's still bigger than her because that neurological connection has been rooted into eating lunch. You got to eat. You got to eat. It's lunchtime. You got to eat at this time, right? I find myself eating when I'm not hungry, and that's exactly what it will produce. You're not hungry, but because you've adopted this relationship, you've adopted this habit with food in this way, even though you're not hungry, you still feel like you have to do it. Why? Because it's what I've always done. Therefore, if I don't do it, I'm going to either feel bad or I'm going to have these crazy urges or I'm just going to like freak out. And then my head's going to hurt and then I'm going to get antsy and I'm going to have these physiological responses because I'm not doing what I've always done. And it's how do I change the mindset on that? So how we start to change the mindset on is recognizing the major points that I've been talking about right now. And when we look at this, it always leads us back to the relationship with food, peace, and your psychological understanding that you've adopted. So how do we start getting out of this? Well, it comes back to what we even talked about in today's episode, right? Getting clear on, okay, if she's decided to only eat those 2 meals, are you happy with that? How does that make you feel? Is this the type of person that you feel eating these 2 meals will help you become? Do you feel good if you only eat 2 meals? Why am I only eating 2 meals? Based on that response, then if that's what we're going to choose to do, great. Now it's about I'm going to develop a new relationship with food in this way. Now, we're not even talking about what food choices she's making, right? We're just talking about the times that she's eating. Because if this is now what I want to do, then I'm going to adopt this relationship with food, meaning I'm only going to eat lunch and I'm only going to eat dinner for whatever the reason is. There's no right or wrong, right? It's just this is what works for me. Maybe that works for you. Great. Perfect. So on that, then I'm going to start looking at food as something that gives me the nutrients that I need in the morning to function and get me through dinner. And then that dinner, the choice that I'm going to make there is again in line with the life that I want to have. So it's when I've gotten out to practice this in the same way she adopted to where before she was eating lunch. Now it's recognizing I no longer want to eat lunch. It's a conscious choice that now you're going to make. So meaning my relationship with food is only going to be in the morning and in the evening. I don't need anything. I don't want anything here. You see, that's that choice of mine. And then it now comes down to the practice, meaning I'm going to be intentional and be hyper aware of how I'm having this relationship with food, which oftentimes we don't do as humans because it's not taught. And my mission is to teach you that your relationship with food is foundational. It's fundamentally important because of the impact that it has on us, on our body, on our mind, on our relationships, in everything that we do. And not only that, but on the influence that it has on others around us as parents to your kids, to their future. And so when we get this urge, it's the number one thing we've got to look at is I got to stop myself. Recognize, no, the relationship with food that I've chosen to have will be breakfast and dinner. I don't want to eat a lunch. So I have to stop myself and recognize, I'm getting this urge that says to go eat. Stop. Take a deep breath. In this place, now that I've stopped myself, I now allow myself, I give myself an opportunity to make a new choice versus just being on autopilot, right? Automatically reacting. In psychology, it's known as the stimulus and response. We want to create a gap from that moment that you get stimulated, the feeling of wanting to eat, to actually responding, to reacting. We want to create the gap because if we can create that gap, we can separate and create more time in between the urge and me actually doing whatever I'm urged to do. I can give myself an opportunity. I can empower myself to decide, do I want to make it or do I not? Do I want to choose that or do I not? So when we stop ourselves, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to take several deep breaths. I'm creating a new clarity. I'm sending oxygen into my brain. I'm telling the brain, wait, stop. No, 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 no. Hold on for a moment. Let's rethink this here. Let me send you some oxygen. Let me create a new flow. Let me create blood circulation in a different way to then bring myself to a different state, to then remind myself, no, I don't need food. I don't want food. The old me would choose to eat right now, but I'm choosing not to because I don't want it. I don't need it. I don't want to do this, right? Now it's my choice. And in that moment, we go do something else, right? This is a very brief summary of some of the things that I teach, some of the things that I help my students through, that I empower them and teach them some very critical techniques so that they can take control of sugar urges, of food urges, of just whatever urge that they're having linked to food, right? So I hope this answers the question. If you're tuned in today or if you're watching, I hope that answers that. Next question we have here is, I am scared. Here's the next question here. I don't know if I can change the food choices I've been making. I don't know if anyone can help me. I don't know if I'm able to. So this is a very vulnerable place, right? Of not knowing, of just feeling like I can't change. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'm able to. I don't know how. And a lot of this stems again from maybe you've tried in the past and haven't been able to. It comes from loss of hope. It comes from loss of um, of faith. It can come from fear. It could come from not um, believing like you can, self belief, right? And what I want to just say to this is, it is never too late. All things within us pertaining to habits that we've adopted, relationships that we've developed can change. Our brain is plastic and we can retrain it. We can change it. We can reform it. We can reshape it. It's been proven. And so it doesn't matter how long we've been stuck in a certain behavior pattern, how long we've been stuck in making certain food choices, how long we've been in a place of hopelessness or unpleasant desires, unpleasant life, unpleasant choices. We can change that. We can rewire our brain. We can change our relationships with food. We can change our psychological understanding of food. We can change all of those things, excuse me, that will impact and ultimately change our current life. It's never too late. And it's never impossible. And that is why I've put together these Friday trainings, but more importantly, that is why I do what I do. And that is why I'm here to support each one of you through your journey. Because oftentimes we might feel like we're alone. We might feel like it's that's the end for me. There's no more hope for me. I'll never be able to change. I guess I just have to live this way. I just have to be this person. No. And I want to help you with that so that you can get to a life of freedom, so that you can experience the freedom in life that you want, in your health, to do things that you've never done, in your activities, in all of the things that you ultimately desire. So we've got about 10 more minutes, really 5. If anybody else has that's on today, if you have any questions, you can even drop them there in the comment section. And just to remind you that every Friday I want to answer your questions. So if you're on today and you have questions, shoot me an email. You can email them to david@davidhernandez.co, david@davidhernandez.co, and we can get those answered for you every Friday. Also, you can send them to me on all social media platforms. You can send them to me on I'm sorry, on Facebook. You can send them to my messenger. You can also send them through Instagram, through TikTok, through LinkedIn, all social media platforms. You could send them to me so that I could get those answered, and then tune in because I take them at random. However many questions I can get, or based on how many questions are sent, then we can give the time needed to answer that question for you. Because again, it's really about how can I support you through that journey, right? Cool. So if no questions have been sent, any questions there? Okay, cool. All right, so that wraps up for today. I want to remind you, just every Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that would be 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're here. Share this community with others. Look, my mission is to help 1 million people live a life of freedom through health in a simple, smart, and sustainable way. Help me. If you're part of this community, let's share it with others. The link is always there on my Facebook. The link is always there on my social media platforms. If you would like the link, drop it there in the comment section. I can attach the link right now. Share this with somebody that you know. If you'd be gracious enough and you want to be an ambassador for what I do and you want to post it on your Facebook, do it. You can always get my own Facebook posts and forward them or share them onto your platform. Look, I would greatly appreciate it. How can you help me? Help me by that. Spreading this community, getting it out to as many people as we can. Because again, I'm on a mission to help 1 million people find a life of freedom through health. Thank you so much for tuning in. Know that I'm always here for you. If you have any questions related to your journey to health, related to how you can thrive just in terms of your health, shoot me an email, david@davidhernandez.co, david@davidhernandez.co, and I am here for you. Remember, you are incredible. Go out, crush it, and live your best life. I'll see you next week. Peace.